Everybody, welcome to Sonic Talk number 381. It's a portentous day. There are things simultaneously happening. I'm sure you must be actually struggling between choosing whether or not to watch us live or perhaps watch the fact that there is the Project Rosetta, Mission Rosetta, which is about to land a real-life space probe on an actual comet, sort of Armageddon style. Think Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck, but unmanned and not saving the world from some terrible, disaster. So if you remove those bits but keep some aspects of the story, then you'll kind of get the rough idea. This is actually live from the control room there. Oh, look, my, it looks like they've done it. Hold on. Wait, I'm going to have to switch. This looks like... I have to do this. I know this is probably going to infringe all sorts of things. You can't actually embed this. They're all clapping, so I'm guessing it must have actually worked. So, congratulations. We've just landed a comet on a comet. Isn't that awesome? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch that off and I'm going to come back to this and do the introductions. Then, because I think the pictures that they'll send back will take a little bit of time. So anyway, but thank you very much to iZotope for sponsoring this comet-related show, and also thank you very much to. Oops, I've just realised that my camera's about to. My main camera's about to switch on. And thank you very much to everybody in the chat room who are in for a Comet-related show. Well, at least some of it. So thank you very much, everybody. Well, anyway, oh, yes, of course, Ozone 6 is the iZotope. I'm sorry, I'm a bit flustered because we've just landed a Flippin on a comet. Can you believe it? Yes, iZotope, Ozone 6, we've got a winner for last week's competition, which is a full working copy of Ozone 6, and there is going to be another competition announced this week where you can also win another copy of Ozone 6. So let's get into introducing our guest. We haven't had him for a little while, Mr. Robbie Bronneman there in Robot Studios, who is, I don't know what that is in the background, but it looks very nice. But anyway, beside that, he's Howard Jones
Moog.
MD. It's a Moog, is it?
It's a Moog Voyager rack mount.
Ooh, that's pretty. Composer, music producer, Howard Jones MD, and studio owner, all those things. And you've been busy, eh, Robbie? How's things?
Good, actually. I'm very excited. I've been putting together the last couple of weeks my new on the road rig for producing other places. So
oh, really?
I've got the old Mac Pro 12 core and a couple of UAD satellites, Thunderbolts, and little drive array, and yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah, and a USB monitor.
Lordy, never heard of that before. So what does that work all right? Is it updated?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like it's a 15-inch high definition monitor, 1080p. Right. You just plug it in with the USB cable. That's all. It takes its power down the USB, everything, and you get 1900 by 9 whatever it is. By 1080 resolution on the screen. Wow. And it's 7 millimeters thick, and it weighs less than a pound.
Wow!
I want one of those.
Yes.
Yeah, you can connect it up to anything, laptops, anything. Brilliant.
Yeah, that Raspberry Pi. Yeah, okay. Was it expensive?
No, it was 130 quid from Amazon.
All right, okay. Now, this is exciting stuff.
Can you send me a link?
Yeah, link. We all want link. Everybody wants a link. Okay.
8%B168 plus.
All right, we'll check that out. Thank you very much, Robbie. People are a bit concerned that your modular has been replaced by what seems to be a much smaller unit right there. What's going on?
The modular's still here. The modular's at the side there.
Ah, okay. It's been displaced.
Had a bit of a shuffle round.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah.
I've been trying to shuffle here, but it hasn't been working out. Everything's not... Well, anyway, I won't go into that. Anyway, we'll also say hello to, let's say, Mark Tinley. We haven't seen Mark for a little while. Mark Tinley over there in what looks like a fridge magnet and fridge note encrusted kitchen. That is a seriously been noted. You must have a lot of stuff going on with all of that going on. Anyway, Mark Tinley, creative thinker, sound designer, sound artist, over there in... sunny Glastonbury in the UK. How are you, Mark?
It's bloody raining, actually.
Yeah,
I'm really well. I've been doing lots of things that I don't know what to tell you about. I want to do a Gaz kind of moment where I tell you all about my new wonderful guitar. Can I do that?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Look, I've been making this for about a year, so it is a Fender Stratocaster, but it's not. Ooh. So I might have shown you this before, but it's got Seymour Duncan P-Rails pickups on it, and I've wired it all up so I can do inverse phases and all sorts of things. But the most exciting bit is that bit there. Can I get that? There.
I don't know. What are you showing me?
I'm trying to show you that I've got 7 audio outputs.
Whoa! Why ever not?
So I've got a hex pickup on the bridge, like a piezo pickup, and the body was made by Black Sabbath's keyboard player, just to confound you.
Awesome.
So I've gutted a Line 6 guitar, and I've put the Line 6 guitar in a rack, and this speaks to the Line 6 guitar. So I've got, like, you know, the typical kind of 30-odd different guitar models, plus this P-Rails pickup. P-Rails pickup is a P90 and an Alnico pickup in one unit, and they sound bloody awesome. When you reverse the phase and stuff, it sort of sounds like a cross between Mick Ronson and Jimi Hendrix. With more LSD. It's brilliant.
Hey!
You can't go wrong. Well, nice, Mark. I look forward to perhaps hearing that sometime in the not too distant future. That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And we're going to go over to, oh, they've just been there. We're going to go to Rich Hilton, who's in Connecticut. Rich Hilton, of course, keyboard player with Chic, Nile Rodgers studio guy, and man with the nicest sounding microphone out of the bunch of us, although I have tweaked my EQ myself. I've had EQ envy and mic envy, although I'm using a Rode Procaster here, and you're using something infinitely more valuable, I'd imagine. How are you, Rich?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
And there's no EQ involved.
There is not.
There is no EQ on this microphone.
Oh, okay. Well, well, I don't know if that's disappointing. That's great. Well, that means you've obviously made the right mic selection for your voice, which is what you'd expect from a man of your experience.
I've had this microphone for, I don't know, 25 years or something. It's a beautiful microphone, but it was like, I think at the time even, it was a $500 or $600 microphone.
Nice. I like the sound of that. Anyway, Rich, thank you for joining us. And also we've got a full panel this week. We've got Gaz Williams, who's over there in Bristol in his bass garret. Actually, it's like a bass loft rather than a basement. You've got a bass loft right there.
Yes. Yeah.
Bass player, I should say, bass player, producer, more than occasional host on various Sonic productions. So thank you very much for joining us, Gaz. You're well.
Yeah. Yes. Very well. Thank you. Been very much ensconced in effects, bass effects. I'm playing a gig with Asteroid Deluxe on Friday, and that's far out space music. Really kind of bit krauty, bit sort of Tangerine Dreamy, bit sort of what else? Hawkwind, Gong, getting into that sort of territory a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Really looking forward to it. It's so indulgent. It's so much fun.
Aren't you going to have to play your bass with a violin bow to qualify at some point?
Ooh, there's a good idea.
Because I don't know if people know that. Didn't Jean-Luc Ponty used to be in Gong?
Oh, I don't know.
There you go.
But I've been using lots of ring modulator, and trying to make ring modulator work with bass is quite interesting. So I'm looking forward to inflicting that on the poor people, because it's going to be in quite a nice club with a big sound system.
Excellent. And your new bass, which I heard the other day, which does sound delightful, I must say.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. I'm still watching. There's a bloke on the ESA web live stream now who's talking, presumably saying how great it is to have landed, but we're still waiting for the pictures, so I'm not gonna go anywhere in with that. Let's start with our very own first topic. I think I have one. This is. I know we may have mentioned this before, but there now seems to be a move afoot. So watch and learn. This is Tommy D doing a sort of promo video for the Music Producers Guild.
Producer and a director of the Music Producers Guild. Adele's phenomenally successful album 21 has sold over 25 million copies worldwide. This supposedly solo album actually features the names of over 200 professionals who contributed to its enormous success. I know this because I own the CD, and the CD comes with a booklet with these credits inside. Credits used to be an important part of the album making process, not just for the people involved, but also for sort of budding young producers and engineers who wondered what these names like Jeff Emmerich, Trevor Horn, what they actually did and these jobs that they actually were entailed. But what about the modern world? What about if you're streaming on Spotify, or if you've bought the album on iTunes? How can you accurately tell who's done what?
A very good question. I think you'll probably agree with me. I mean, and this is something that is quite critical. I mean, I'd say career, when I had one, did sort of span a little bit between the digital and the analog world, and there was a couple of tracks that I worked on that were just purely digital releases, sort of, a matter of a couple of years ago. And I couldn't figure out how I was going to get credited. When I say I played bass synth on, production X or Y, who would know apart from me? And I guess that's actually quite an issue. But what the Music Producers Guild are suggesting is linking a database to the ISRC code, which is the sort of unique recording code, which is what happens when you stick a CD in your computer and grab it into iTunes. It reads the ISRC code off it, pulls all the information, the track listings, and minimal information, maybe the album art, but not the credits. And they're thinking of expanding that so that it begins to do all of those things. I'm guessing, Robbie, that this might be something. In terms of productions that you're working on, you're working on sort of pop and house and sort of club EDM kind of stuff. How do you get credited? How, isn't there an issue that's going to happen?
It's a minefield, because I get really hacked off with it, because quite often you do like a co-write production for somebody, and it goes up on iTunes and all that, and it just says the artist name, and then you go back to the label and say, there's no, all these things that you're meant to be able to say you've done that help get other work, and you put people in touch with what you've done, basically looks like you haven't done anything. And so you get in touch with all these labels and people and say, I haven't got a credit, and they say it's too late, it's already gone through the system, and we can't revoke it and all that kind of thing. It's a minefield.
Oh, that's bad.
It's a pain. I'm all for this. I'm all for this, really, because it's, like you said, the more the stuff goes sort of nebulous in the fact there's no hard copy of anything, the more this kind of information just gets totally watered down and lost. And it's not that everyone wants to be egocentric and say, look what I did, but it is important, as that kind of film kind of showed, for producers and session musicians and people like that to be able to quantify what they've done so that they can continue getting work.
Yeah, I think it's, and I disagree. I think it is really important for the ego, because I mean, creativity does have a lot to do with ego, I think, personally. And seeing as many of the charts and the measurements that we might have used to sort of go, oh look, I worked on that, it's number X in the obvious chart, rather than some random obscure sponsored by some Screwfix League type chart somewhere or other, there you get number one. It doesn't have the same cash, so it's quite important. I guess, Rich, also, your work, you must be contributing in many ways to lots of recordings, and in previous years it may have maybe or maybe not, it would be easy for that credit to happen, even if all the interested parties agree that you should get it. Where does it go? There isn't actually a place for it to live in the digital world so much now, right?
Well, now there isn't. Yeah, there's not so much print media about it. The best you can hope for, I guess, is an annotation on one of those all music websites or something. I don't know. This brings such an enormous range of thoughts to me, the whole credit discussion. First of all, I have been, by and large, very generously well credited for the vast majority of the work I've done, certainly with Nile. So nothing I say should sound like anything other than the full knowledge of that. That having been said, there are moments where you're doing things for which you're not going to be credited. And at certain point, you have to have an agreement with yourself that the work is its own reward, and you've chosen to do it. And some aspect of how you get credited falls outside of your hands.
Yeah. But do you think that it's fair
really.
Do you think it's fair that we should expect, or nay, demand even, that there is a route for this information to be put out there? Because all it does is seem to contribute to the commoditization of music as a product, and the less removed from the people who actually work on it.
In theory, in a perfect world, yes, but it is far from that. And in fact, the crediting of these things has become part of the marketing of them. And quite often what's being represented in the credits is more of a community or a figurehead status. You want somebody's name on your record and they're willing to pay for it. And that guy has taken the job and farmed it out to somebody else or somebody who works for him or whatever. So
yeah, I know what you're saying.
It's all smoke and mirrors anyway. On some level. I mean, to some extent. In some cases, not. And some things are meticulously well credited and very specifically acknowledged as far as who did what at any given various time, like they were in the old days, but they're very few and far between. And as you point out, there's really no venue from which to dispense that information reliably anyway. So, yeah, it's a wonderful idea.
But it should be. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, it would be great. It would be great. It's just
But I mean, I don't think we're very far away from that actually potentially happening by all accounts. It's just all it needs is central. Well, some poor sod is going to have to enter all of that data into a database, which might take a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think, maybe there should be something about with the meta tagging, whether for a release that should be just par for the course. It should be done. When I was young, I used to just absolutely. I would read every single possible little bit of text I could find on it, and on an album, I'd bring it home. I would study it. I'd devour it. I'm not maybe particularly typical of the average person, but I think a lot of people would have done that as well. But I mean, I used to love finding out, and I used to love it if I find that someone who worked on that record had worked on that record, but one of the small names, and I do really feel from a fan and listener point of view a little bit sad about this, but from a professional view, it's a bugbear of mine in a way, because I've worked on about 200 commercial releases in the past 10 years, but there's very little like online evidence of this. And some of the albums that I've worked on, which I'm really pleased about and would love to be associated with, I can't find credits for myself on it as well. So it's it's useful, isn't it? For someone like myself, it'd be useful to have the credibility. And if people are discovering me that way, I think it'd be fantastic. So I do feel it's a real shame that it's not just a given, that it should just be absolutely the release when a release is done, a commercial release, bang, producer, engineer, mastering, all the different people,
musicians, contributors, all that
musicians,
sort of thing.
writers. It should just be, and if it takes 10 minutes of someone's time to put that in, that should just be done. And I think, God, you think about the amount of time we put in that we're not being paid for on projects we work for, put hours and hours and hours of the stinking time in. So yeah, there's no excuse.
Good man. Mark, nice cup there. That's a massive cup. Is that a foreshortening effect on the wide angle lens, or is it actually that big?
It is quite a large cup.
Credits, important though.
Credits. Right? Oh. I don't think I've ever been credited properly on anything, actually. Actually, no, maybe that's unfair. There's one album that I did with Duran Duran that Nick sat down with me and said, what exactly do you want it to say? And I wrote my own credit and it went on. But I think that might have been because I got really hacked off because a few of the other albums that I was on didn't get credited anywhere near properly. So Nick kind of set it straight by making sure that I got to say what I wanted it to say on one of them. And that's partly my own fault for not thinking it was particularly important. And now I'm 50 years old, or 51, I realise actually it was massively important. And if I'd made a real kind of effort to make sure I got credited properly on things for things that I'd done, especially where I'd been a musician on things, because I've often been a musician, but I kind of believed that as a producer, and partly what Rich was saying, that you kind of give up the right to any of your musicianship by being a producer, and that's part and parcel of the producer thing, and then you get your point, and then it's almost like dirty money under the table to like, don't tell anyone you did that bit and we'll give you a point kind of thing.
I see what you're saying.
But it's
I don't know, it's got to be really hard to make sure that people are actually credited for what they've done, because even I don't know. I've quite often accepted different credits to the things that I've done on things that I've worked on. So I don't know. How would you administer? Would you have someone there?
I think it needs to be
creditfully.
It needs to be a process that happens. When they sit down and they enter all the data into the databases for royalty tracking, that it happens at that point. I'm guessing. Sorry, Robbie, you wanted to.
I was going to say one of the most important things I think in this day and age is that you do get your credit if you're a musician on something, particularly with things
I didn't realise that
PL being a valued revenue stream. Because, for instance, I've got a friend called Hal Ritson who pretty much is the go-to guy who does all the sample replays for pretty much everyone worldwide now, all the American artists as well. And he gets credited, obviously, as a performing producer and for playing. And the amount of money that it's worth to him yearly is off the scale, particularly for stuff that becomes radio hits. So it's really important. Obviously, hindsight's a totally useless thing. But, I've come to realise how important that is. Years later.
Yeah, I must admit, I've been sort of looking back at some of the things, and I think I should have said that.
I've written musical parts on things, but because I was the programmer, I mean, I've had it where the artists come in at 2:00 in the afternoon to see what I've been up to, and I've just been writing loads of musical parts, and then they go, I like that, I don't like that, let's use that. And actually that means I'm the musician on the album, but I'm not credited as the musician on the album, and that's with more than one different artist that I've done that. And especially drum programming as well. I mean, you do drum programming, you sort of think, oh, well, I'm just programming beats, making the machine do things. But it's still musicianship, and we sort of forget that along the way.
Increasingly more so now. The beats are the kind of, that's one of the signature sounds of a recording. Yeah, it is complex. And I mean, there used to be the issue, you'd sign a musician release form, and that's the paper trail that used to happen. So that's where you get your PPL, your performance stuff.
Right.
And I wish I'd done the same thing, because I have played on some quite big hits, and I don't think I've got all the credit for it. And it's a shame, really. There needs to be an age, because while they're at it, maybe we could just get them to refill all our previous ones. But there's got to be some sort of administrative process, because I could go, yeah, I remember, didn't I play the bass on that? And if no one contests it, because I might be wrong, because my memory's shot, or I might be criminal, how do you then?
Yeah, I mean, we get it put. I get it put into agreements now. Before I know I've said this old joke.
Good for you.
I get it put into agreements. I'm going to be credited as performing producer, etc., because a lot of this stuff in nowadays you have to take on board the responsibility for it yourself. So periodically I go to PPL, I trawl through all this stuff that I've done in the last year, and I look at all the entries that other labels have made, and I go, they haven't got that entry right, I'm not credited on that, I'm not credited on that. And then I have to provide all this information to PPL, like a CD artwork cover that shows my name, or all this kind of thing. So the more you can kind of set yourself up to not have to go through all that grief afterwards, the better, really.
Yeah, well, that's a good point.
Yeah, but so as it becomes more digital and you don't have the CD,
yeah, exactly,
with the name on the back, how are you going to?
I think when you're doing the upload to say iTunes, and you're filling in the different boxes, and there's usually, with all of these online forms, there's mandatory boxes and then there's optional boxes, and you can advance if you've but if any of the mandatory boxes haven't been
mandatory,
make it
Who played
Make it mandatory. Make it mandatory. Just, and then that's just make it a standard. Make it mandatory, and then you just certainly put the main categories. So it's not an essay that people have to write, but at least if it was the main categories, and then possibly an additional fields as well, which are optional. But if the main categories that certainly covers engineers and mastering and that kind of thing are mandatory, then I think that would go some way to helping. And then that information is essentially
that's true. I mean, if you do make it mandatory, then then essentially it's up to the label or the uploader to do it. So
I don't think people would mind particularly. Oh, they're filling in the form and doing that, and that's just part of the process. But when there's not that, then people are not going to do it. So I think there is a good a good case to be put forward for it.
Good point. Well, if you want to find out any more information on that, you need to go to mpg.org.uk, mpg.org.uk credits, and they've got a kind of a whole section on it, and it's definitely well worth it. Okay. Yes, there is a huge pile of Aphex Twin releases. This is another one. What's the time? Actually, I should probably do the ad, but we'll do that afterwards, eh? So, yes, of course, now we want a word from our sponsor, and also we're going to have the competition details, last week's winner and the next winner, so stay tuned. iZotope
Mastering makes the difference between a good-sounding mix.
Ozone 6, just out.
Product.
Essential mastering tools, equalizer, dynamics, maximizer, exciter, exchanger, image, post equalizer, dither, dynamic EQ, advanced only.
Ozone has
harness the sonic texture
tools,
of classic analog gear with even deeper digital control. Make smarter mix.
Post equalizer, maximizer, and dithering.
Quickly achieve authentic sounds any genre with comprehensive bank of presets.
Free 10-day trial at iZotope.com.
Indeed, do download it. There is a full working, you get a 10-day trial and it works fully, so it's well worth checking out, available in standard and advanced versions. And of course, last week we ran a competition, and we have a winner of the said competition. I've just got to find my paperwork, which is just here. The winner for last week's competition, we asked you to tweet out a hashtag to Sonic Nick and at Creative Mastering. I'm sorry, and at iZotope Inc. The winner is somebody called Saturdays Radio. At Saturdays Radio, that's the Twitter handle at Saturdays Radio, won last week. So if you let me know, the iZotope Fairy will be able to bestow the gift of ozone to your inbox, which I'm sure you'll be delighted with, because otherwise, why would you have bothered entering the competition? He also said, cheers to the Sonic Talk podcast and iZotope crew for these great giveaways. I'd love a copy of Ozone 6. So, as I say, you know, comments always welcome. But you can also win this week. So, this week, there is another competition. You need to be on Twitter. You need to tweet the hashtag AnalogMatchedEQ. That's a bit of a mouthful. AnalogMatchedEQ, one word, if you basically tweet that highlighted text, that will get you an entry to the competition. But I'd prefer it if you had a little comment, because it gives us something to read, and I know that iZotope also read them, so you know, do check them out. And then what we do is we search for those terms, and we pick a random number from the winners list in reverse order, and job's a good one. So win iZotope 6 and do it. Right.
Can I just say something about Ozone 6 before I forget?
Do, Bobby.
Oh, I was so pleased with Ozone 6, because for years I've been using this plugin on the TC Power Core platform, and then on my System 6000 called Dynamic EQ, you know, where you can compress frequencies with various EQs, and it's been brilliant on and the Power Core platform, as you know, has been gradually going, and now with Maverick's pretty much gone. And I just couldn't find anything. I tried other ones from other people, and they were just always too complicated. But the Dynamic EQ in Ozone 6 is absolutely brilliant, and a total replacement for that. So I've been very, very happy this week.
Excellent.
Ozone Advanced, isn't it?
Ozone Advanced.
It is advanced only. That's true. It should be worth mentioning. Which also gets you the advanced metering and the reverb cloning and the mix match as well, isn't it? So you can match the EQ. Right. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I'm still looking. There's still just loads of blokes talking about stuff. There's not actually any pictures. I want to see a picture of the flipping Comet, not a bloke in a tie with a lanyard, please, if you don't mind. Can you get on with it? The show's going to be over quite soon. Right, so I'm looking for this very lucky chap, Noise Lab, Dave Noise, talks to Richard D. James, aka Aphex Twin, as we know. I mean, he doesn't really do interviews, generally speaking, and this is an absolute doozy. This was a kind of conducted over IRC, as far as I understand. There is a whole ton. Usually, you know, he's a very secretive fellow, but there is a lot of information here about the instrumentation, processes, things that we use, and also he's just posted this stuff on SoundCloud. Is that me? Oh yeah, that is. I'll shut that down. And he's basically posted all of these tracks. There are a few tracks, but there's also lots and lots and lots of just kind of ARP 2500 modules, brain floss mix. So there's just, you know, various different sounds, for instance, that just, this is what, it's like, check out my synths. And we are checking them out. And this is not something I did, to be honest, I wasn't aware that Aphex Twin used a lot of vintage analog. I thought a lot of the stuff he was doing was made in-house, and he does make a lot of his own instrumentation and stuff as well. It's a very interesting phenomenon. I don't know, Robbie, what is it about Aphex Twin? He's massive, and people just... This is kind of a release, isn't it? And it's an interesting idea, because it's just a collection of sound files and a whole... It's like a sort of mood board of an album, rather than a cohesive album thing. And it's not an uninteresting way to proceed. What do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting. I've always had a bit of a sort of a love-hate thing with his work, because he's one of those artists quite often I describe as can't eat a whole one, and like it's very hard sometimes to sit through a whole album and to take it all in, because it's just so out there, a lot of it. But no, I mean I think he's deservedly got that kind of mythical status, because like you say, he has been kind of very secretive about stuff in the past. So he's kind of like the Kate Bush of the electronic world, really.
Yes, that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
There are actually a couple of quite commercial or accessible sounding things on here as well. I mean, it's not just. That's perhaps not it. I can't find. I'm trying to find the one now. It was actually very. It sounded quite mainstream by comparison to what he usually does. I know, Gaz. What do you think about this idea of, whether or not Aphex Twin is your thing? It's a really interesting way of releasing material. There's nothing for sale. I mean, presumably there will be product as well at the end of it.
Well, it seems like it's... I mean, are they directly related to that interview? Has he just put sounds up to help illustrate the points that he was making in the interview?
I'm not sure if that's the case, actually. Hold on, I'm just looking for... I'd closed that window, which was perhaps a little bit foolish.
The interview's nice because they say at the beginning that they're mates. So he says, oh, it's a bit strange being interviewed by your mate. But then I think that's quite a key thing, really, because it's really nice. It's very it does actually feel like mates talking and being quite straight with and that's cool.
Oops, sorry about that. That was not supposed to happen there. Let me.
But I mean, Aphex.
Sorry, I'm not. What I'm trying to do is send it into the mix, but turn it down. It's not working.
It's making it sound like an Aphex Twin song.
That's it. It's the wrong thing. So carry on, and I'll just sort of send a little bit in, and you can have a listen.
I mean, his influence is so huge, and as Robbie says, some of it is really hard work. It's not exactly easy listening, but there's so many things we just take almost for granted, that there'll be a button on our latest kind of unit that'll make things go or whatever. And
yes, he spawned a genre.
Oh, hugely. But it's it's a really interesting article, and it's well worth reading, whether you like him or not, because you can't, even if you don't like him, his techniques and his ideas are really interesting.
Into making a lot of kind of electromechanical instruments and his own sort of things, which I think is quite, that's quite a nice idea.
Yes, but I mean, he has got this very nice musicality about him as well, though, that when he does more straight pieces, you can see, wow.
Yeah, it's groovy, isn't it? It's got a groove.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because his exposure, he really could have made an album just moving a few nudges over to the mainstream that would have just been huge, mega selling, but he's never done that, and his latest album is it's just continuing his own path regardless of commercial, I
suppose so.
concerns.
I mean, I think what happened was there was that whole MTV genre of stuff that he did, where he did those videos which were just really visually striking, and where he had the kind of his ugly face,
Widow Liquor and Come to Daddy.
That perhaps, I think basically what happened there is maybe it went, and he's obviously spent a lot of money on those things, but maybe it went a lot bigger than he was comfortable with, and he just sort of went, oh my God, I don't actually want that to happen again. It's not something I'm comfortable with, so maybe this is the way to do it. I don't know, Rich, what do you think about the idea of this sort of mood board release? It's sort of an interesting notion. I mean, it seems like a lot of things unfinished, but, I'm
not sure I understand the question. I don't really understand this topic, and I don't know much about this guy. so I don't have really a lot to contribute.
The notion of what seems to have happened is released an awful lot of bits and pieces and stuff that are going towards making or have been involved in making a full new release. At least that's how I understand it. But releasing it all as a sort of just big pile of SoundCloud stuff and some alternative mixes, and just to sort of, like I say, it's almost like an assemblage or a mood board of stuff that goes towards making the final product. It's quite a brave thing in many ways, because there's a lot of stuff in there that is pretty impenetrable and you go, what the hell, as well. Could you see that being a release format perhaps in the future, all that accompanying material, you know, breaking it down? And we've talked about that as a possibility in the past.
Well, I don't claim to be a visionary on these things. Could I see it? Yeah, I could see it. I could see all kinds of things that I never anticipated. So I'm old enough to know that stuff happens that I don't see the connection to. So in this case, I don't really see a connection to that as far as wanting to do it. But could I see it becoming popular? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, definitely. But I mean, and also, I mean, there is a certain amount of you know, anything with Aphex Twin in the title is guaranteed to kind of explode your hits enormously, exponentially, just because there seems to be an enormous amount of people interested in him. And I think that's down to, like you say, Robbie, his enigmatic approach to being, you know, a public figure. And that's kind of something that I suppose, and also, you know, every photograph of himself is sort of distorted in some way, so it's quite an interesting way of presenting yourself, right the way from, you know, since he did the Come to Daddy and the Window Licker stuff, where it was really kind of like he made himself look as grotesque as possible, which kind of seems like the sort of thing you might do if you didn't agree with your record company and they were trying to promote you in standard ways, and you come up with an image that's so unpalatable that they don't want to use it, but it sort of backfired in many ways.
Wasn't there that album he released? Wasn't there that album on eBay we talked about a couple of months back?
Yeah, that's
unreleased album that went for some crazy amount of money. Unreleased bit of vinyl.
65 grand or something. Yeah, it was insane. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Madness. Well, that's probably that. But yeah, do check out.
Oh, I haven't said anything
sorry,
yet.
Mark. I'm terribly sorry, Mark. I'm kind of I got lost there. What's that? That's an industrial strength.
This is what I want to do with Aphex Twin. I want to go and hang out in his house, or he can come to my house actually, with my soldering iron, because I just absolutely love all of these different weird things that he makes, and it's kind of what I do. And I have my kitchen table is just a sea of electronic components and different things, and I got given I'm going to go off on a slight tangent, because his friend Dave, who's done this interview with him, dragged a piano behind a train in Australia, and I love the idea of that. Any of those sorts of things. Awesome. And I got given a piano in Glastonbury the other day. Someone had it on the Glastonbury notice board and said, "Does anyone want this piano?" And I said, "Yes, I'll have it, but you have to know that it's not going to remain intact." So I visited this person with a 10-pound lump hammer. We wheeled the piano out of their house into the street, and then I smashed it to pieces and took the soundboard home, and then I've covered it in contact mics, and I've been making samples of me drilling into it with a hammer drill. And so, I mean, that's the kind of thing I like doing, and I just get excited by sounds, and I think it's, you know, reading this thing about him and all the things he likes doing, I think him and I, over a nice cup of mushroom soup or something, you know, could have a lot of fun. So with our soldering irons, look.
That sounds like a great idea. I'm just going through some of the. There's some great images in here. This weird. His
synths just look wicked, and then like all these, you know, slightly modified things, and I kind of totally get it. I can, and the sounds that he's making, I like going like, yeah, I get that one, but I've got this one, so you know, we could do like trump card swaps. Here, I'll swap you this sound for this one, or whatever. Or maybe I should just put all my sounds on sound.
Oh, look, that's interesting. There's Adrian Utley with.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was he doing with there. I'll have to talk to Adrian about that. There, as you can see,
he's another interesting chap, actually, isn't he? So.
Yes, very nice fellow, Adrian. Most definitely. Yes, there's basically a second part to this post, and it's just full of really interesting interesting, just sort of imagery and bits and bobs, and it's this is
he's sort of
definitive.
He's the modern equivalent of the BBC Radiophonic Workshop, isn't he? I suppose.
I suppose in many ways that's not an unfair comparison.
He's sort of an independent, like a sound maker. He's doing this. He's creating cutting edge things and experimenting, and I don't know. That always excites me. Just always excites me.
There is just so much material here. I have to confess I haven't read the in its entirety, and I'm going to have to sit down and really kind of go through it.
Those are good as well. There's a picture of the clap, that little module. It had like a little brass thing on it for like you could. I know a little bit further down. It's just a picture of the box. There's this like clap thing that it had like a little brass thing on it, and you played it with your fingers, and it was part of something called the kit, which was also like a finger drums thing, which was like one of the best sounding drum machines, or not machine, but one of the best sounding drum modules. The hi-hats on them were really nice, and they felt nice because you tapped this brassy thing to get the sound.
Wow, look at that. That's a pretty seriously modded TB303 there, right there. Jesus Christ.
It's a drum machine, isn't it?
Is that the 606? I can't tell. Ah, that's some interesting things. Anyway, yeah, mine. If you've everything, it looks like everything you've always wanted to know, but nobody could ever get to ask the question. Check them out. That's at Noise Lab, spelt with a Y and a Z and an E. noiselabblogspot.com.au. So do check that out. Right, let's see what else we've got here. Oh yes, of course. Who could fail to have been impressed by that? And I'm sure this is going to work. Is it going to work? It doesn't seem to want to. There we go. This was posted by Keyboard Mag a couple of weeks ago. This was a petting zoo idea, which is a great idea. This is a room full of Yamaha synthesizers. It being 40 years of Yamaha synths this year, which we've spoken about before, so far only seems to have been celebrated by the release of a white liveried motif, which I find a bit unfathomable when you consider to look at all of these amazing synthesizers. But there are a ton of them here. But again, it's a very select and kind of and dark. You can't really see what's going on in a lot of these things. But the idea of a petting zoo, I didn't see the CSA. There must be one there, but I guess there wasn't a CSA. Yeah. But some really cool instruments there. And that's the... I mean, perhaps less about the Yamaha in the 40 years, apart from the fact that there are some great synthesizers there. It's an astonishing array of stuff that... it's a great idea, isn't it? That sort of petting zoo notion. I mean, do you think you would... Robbie, would you let anybody pet your synthesizers? The general public? Would you let them do that? I mean, it just seems like a very risky proposition.
No, I wouldn't. No. I don't think so. I don't think I don't like them. I don't like them being out of their natural habitat.
No.
Yeah. They're just too. They just don't feel like specifically bespoke things like my polygamist and things like that. I just don't think they're the sort of things that travel well. So, no, I'm very happy for them to be nice and cozy at home.
Yeah,
in
well,
the studio.
that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Rich, were you invited to that petting zoo? That seems like the sort of thing that you should have been present at.
No, I think the hotel said I had a message downstairs, but I didn't go fetch it.
Ah, curses.
No, I don't know. I'm joking. I know I wasn't invited.
Okay,
I wasn't aware of it.
Favorite hardware Yamaha synth then? How about that as a question?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Well, probably just because of its uniqueness, the GX1.
Ooh, big style.
But in terms of reality, a CS80, I think, is a pretty pinnacle instrument for any company. And to me, that was a really, really effective, well-done thing.
Yeah, that through an Eventide Ultra Harmonizer, and you're talking a world of love right there. They're just amazing things. And I suppose I should ask you as well. I'm not sure how many Yamaha synthesizers you've been exposed to, Mark, but a fair few, I think, I would imagine. I mean, most of your clients have been more Roland-focused, perhaps.
My favourite Yamaha synth has to be that little tiny analog one. That's like it's called a CS.
Oh, one.
CS30. Is it a CSO1? Like it's about this, it's like
Mini
about the
P's.
same size as the Casio thing.
Yeah.
But it's full analog synth with proper resonant filters and stuff. So that one, because I can not quite put it in my pocket. If I wear a big enough coat, I could put it in my pocket. I like portable things, you see.
Yeah, no, I seem to remember you talking about the CSO1 actually, Robbie, in the past.
I had both of them, the 1 and the Mark II, over the years, and I regret losing both of those. Yeah, but I remember when I was about 17, I went to ABC Music in Slough, and there was this second-hand synth I'd never seen before called the CS30 with the sequence on it.
Yeah,
that
beautiful.
one. And I bought it. I bought it for £250.
Wow.
And I got it home and I thought, hang on a minute, I can only play one note at once. I totally didn't realise that because the other synth I had at the time was a DX9. So I was, again.
Was you sure it wasn't duophonic, the CS30? Because I've got a CS15 and that's duophonic.
I just remember thinking, hang on a minute, I can't play chords on this. And I'm being utterly disappointed. But now in hindsight, I really wish I had that instrument.
Absolutely. I know, Gaz. Sorry.
When I had an MC202 so that I could do chords, I used to work out what all the chords were, and then I used to do the tape sync thing, and I'd record the chords one note at a time to kind of create, and I'd do like kind of 4 passes and bounce them all back and forth until I'd created the whole, 4-note chord.
Oh, nice.
As an aside,
bloody laborious. Azio said in the chat, lots of music stores got that question in those days. I'm sure my synth is broken; it can only play one note. I'm sure you're absolutely right about that. I know, Gaz, petting zoos and favourite Yamaha synth then.
Tenorion.
Okay, that's very controversial.
Just because it's so bonkers, and the fact that Yamaha, who are not known for their
bonkers,
the most Yamaha stuff is quite serious, isn't it? It's quite, but Tenorion, bonkers, great things. And the iPad version was cool, but when you play a real one and you hold it and it's just such a strange thing. It's yes, I remember doing a review for that, and it was very challenging. Just figure out how it worked. if in all honesty though, my favourite Yamaha thing of all time, I think, was my QY20, which I know we've mentioned before.
Oh yeah, they're brilliant.
Yeah, I love that. I used to use mine so much. But the petting zoo thing, I think, is a great idea. I've been to some things a little bit like that. I've been to like bass things a little bit like that, where people take their basses along and you get to play on them. But they do have some, don't they? I think there is one that they have in Bristol.
There's a Bristol Synth Heads. Yeah, I've yet to make it along to one of those. And there's also, of course, the guys at synthesizer.de and various offshoots and magazines, because they've got a magazine in Germany. If you go to Music Messe, there's this downstairs. There's a booth which is just a photo op for almost any kind of loads of really obscure and fabulous synthesizers that you could they're not all sort of set up to play, but they're all there, and that's really brave.
It's like a vintage steam rally or something, though, isn't it?
Yeah, or one of those things where people kind of take along sort of Atwell 2-stroke lawnmowers, that sort of thing. Yeah.
I think stationary engine exhibition.
I've been to a stationary engine exhibition by mistake.
Yeah,
I was at a wedding, and it was near Gloucester, and I had a terrible hangover, and we had to go into Gloucester to get really salted crisps, Coca-Cola, and bacon sandwiches. And there was at Gloucester Docks there was a stationary engine exhibition, and it was really interesting.
I like the ones that fire like about every second. They're going to go.
Yeah. Like Yamaha 500cc single-cylinder motorcycles, yeah.
Can I just say my favourite Yamaha thing while I'm here?
Okay.
Actually, while I'm on the screen. And that's the Yamaha, either the Rex 50, Yamaha REX 50, which is a little multi-effects processor, or the SPX 50D. The distortion in that, and then the fact that you can couple the distortion. I'm probably giving away a bit of a secret here, actually. Although it's probably not that important. You can couple the distortion with early reflection, and you can create this real room sound, and then this really harsh, really nasty distortion. And I used that for years and years and years and years as my main guitar sound. And it just, I love it. It sounds
noisy.
brilliant.
I seem to remember, weren't they? Yes.
Oh,
Very.
terribly
It's got a gate in it, but,
well, that's
but
all
it
right.
just, it's so distorted. It's just so digitally distorted, but it makes a guitar sound sort of like more punk than anything else and more harsh than anything else. And before they started warming things up by using cabinet simulators, it's just got this real kind of like, I don't know, just a real hard, presence-y, harsh edge.
Interesting. There's a good one in the chat room. Atomic Shadow, who is, as we know, is a very talented electronic musician himself. If you could have any vintage synth in great condition, which one would it be? That's a great question.
Oh, no, easy.
Go on then, Robbie.
I just want a Jupiter 8. I just always wanted one, and I just one day I will have one.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's very reasonable. That seems very reasonable. Yeah. Rich, any synth in good condition, which one would it be? You can only have one, but you can take your choice, assuming it's working. You know, you don't have to worry about getting it fixed and what have you.
Boy, that's hard.
That is hard. It's harder than it seems, isn't it?
Because it's going to either be a big modular, it could be a 2600, it could be any number of things. You know, an Oberheim 8 voice, or a memory mug. The simplest answer is the memory mug, just because it had a lot to do with my development, and I think it's a magnificent instrument. Though even in its original incarnation, it was fraught with problems.
Yes, well, that's where the in good condition is
even then, it wasn't perfect when they sold it for new, but it sounded so great. So it depends on the scale of the thing. If it's all built into a keyboard instrument and plays poly, then it's memory mug. If it's
that's
vintage thing, it's a 2600, and if it's modular, then it's probably an old Moog, or maybe even what Dave's got.
The .com modular.
Yeah, that thing looks beautiful.
It does look beautiful.
It sounds great. Every time he plugs it in, I go, wow.
There's some good stuff here. Tonto is being one of them, but also quite a lot of System 100, quite a lot of Synthy 100s as well, which I can totally relate to as well. Who haven't I asked? I haven't asked you, Gaz, have I?
Mellotron.
Okay.
Yeah, because you said if it was all in brilliant condition, so a fully working Mellotron would just be a amazing thing to have, wouldn't it? Just think, but I think I was going to say the memory Moog as well. Just 'cause that thing fascinates me, although they're not meant to be. Don't they catch fire or something?
I remember
whatever. There's only a few left.
The guy on Rock School in the 80s, the keyboard player, he always had a memory Moog.
Oh man,
Rock School.
Yeah, nice. Okay, Mark, in you go.
It's got to be something with wood because I've got all the digital things and everything in the computer, so it needs to be a piece of furniture. And I kind of thought, well, would it be a memory Moog because they're nice and wooden? And I think probably not. And Prophet 5 kind of, I like the wood on those as well, but
go
no.
for 10.
I'm going to go with the AKS, the VCS3, because that's got kind of some wood on it. It's a nice big thing, and people would come into my living room and go, I say, what's that, Mark?
Excellent.
And I could put all the little pegs in and make whoop, whoop, battle bits and all that. It's got to be one of those.
I like it. You've rather stolen my thunder, though, because I was thinking about an actual Synthie AKS in the suitcase. That's the one I like, the suitcase. But I tell you what.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go for one of the little Buchla suitcase modulars, because I really like to explore that whole kind of alternative synthesis method that I've know nothing about. And what I've heard Alessandro Cortini do with one is just, it has really kind of piqued my interest with it, because they sound absolutely lovely. I know they're quite rare, even though they are remaking it. They haven't quite got that manufacture process right yet. So I like an original. Is it a 200E? I don't know what it is. What's it called? Is it a Buchla?
The little one.
Yeah.
With the touch keyboard.
That's right, in a suitcase. That
one.
One.
What's it called?
I think it might be a 200E. Hold on.
No,
200E,
it's not.
no, I think it is. The chat room has spoken. Hold on, let me see if I can find. I'll just check. Let me just have a quick look. I'm going to look online. Buckler 200E, and then
I thought the one with the little suitcase and a little SKB type case is called
yeah, it's not that. It's not that. It's not a 200.
Music easel.
The sound easel. Music
easel. Yeah.
That's it. That's the chat. I want that one.
Yeah.
With
lots of pretty colours.
With an iProgram card, please.
Yeah. $3.5 grand or whatever it is, $4 grand.
I know, but I want an original. I don't want a new one necessarily, so that's probably even more. Yeah, so I'll have that. Anyway, well, that kind of brings us to the sort of the end. I'm just going to go back to the space program, see if they've started to. Oh no, looks like they've all gone home. It was brilliant, actually. Earlier, before we go, there was this fantastic. I've been watching it all day because when I saw it was on. So I want to thank Bert Vertessen, I think, Azio Head, for sending the link, saying, "Oh, this is where." And also, I wrote a story because he sent a link about the noise that the radio waves make, which was quite interesting. And I was watching. I just happened to tune in, and they said, "That's it. Anyway, that's it for the morning. We're all off for lunch now." And literally, bearing in mind they've got a satellite in the sky about to land on a comet, this room was completely empty. While they all had lunch. It was just brilliant. I just thought, what a fantastically European kind of approach to, multi-billion euro space program. Anyway, congratulations to the team, the ESA team. They've landed a flipping spacecraft on a comet. I mean, I still can't believe that. Astonishing. But they can't figure out how to get live stream to allow them to embed that video feed in other websites. But, one thing at a time. First space, then possibly embedding on third-party websites. So thank you very much, everybody. It's been great fun as ever. Thank you very much to the chat room. You've been as fun as ever. A nice, fulsome chat room, I am going to say. So we'll say goodbye to all our guests now. We're going to start with Robbie Bronneman over there in Robot Studios. Thank you very much for joining us. And your new studio layout looks very, from that angle, looks very sort of empty and sort of minimal.
Yeah, there's a bit beside me, which you can't see, unfortunately. Perhaps I'll change the camera angle next time. Yeah, it is much more impressive.
Okay, we'll check that out.
I'll change it around next time.
Well, thanks for joining us, Robbie. And also, I'll say thank you to Mark Tinley over there in sunny Glastonbury. Thank you very much for joining us as well. And I hope you're going to have to post some examples of your new guitar, I think.
I will do that, yeah. Now I've finally finished putting it together. And the gas can guitar that I made also has the same hex pickup on it. So theoretically, I should be able to plug either of the hex pickups into this thing, which I bought as well. So I've got like the Graphtec MIDI thing. So I should be able to, it's sort of a modular guitar, I suppose. It can be a MIDI guitar, it can be a Line 6 guitar, it can be a regular electric, it can sound like an acoustic. It kind of does everything. So yeah, I will. Maybe I'll make a little YouTube video now.
Why ever not?
My DSLR camera.
Ooh, awesome, awesome. Go for it. And we're going to say thank you very much to Rich Hilton over there in Connecticut. Thank you very much for joining us. Obviously, off to wax a hottie at the studio, no doubt.
Gosh, I hope so.
I hope so
Thank you very much.
A pleasure to have you. Thank you very much for joining us. And also, Mr. Gaz William there in his bass attic. I'm trying to think of the basement gag.
Rich sent me a little link to a Mellotron that might be worth looking at. I don't know if you've seen it, but this is. Rich, how would you describe it? It's like it looks almost like a, I don't know. It's a super expensive thing. I think it's a special. Streetly have just made it. I think.
Is it a dual manual one?
No. It looks like a vintage
plexiglass
thing.
With these magnificent like metal corner stand legs, the electronics on the bottom, and a black keyboard at the top. And it's all see-through. It's in a plexiglass box. It's really stunning.
Okay, well we'll have to enjoy that in our imaginations for now. But thank you very much.
Yeah,
it's on Streetly's Facebook page. If you want to go look.
I want that. That's what I want.
All right, fair enough. I think you can. If I could grant that wish, Gaz. Well, when we just need to pick up one or two more sponsors, and you'll be able to have your wildest dreams come true.
Hooray! Hello to
I
that.
say 1 or 2. I mean 1 or 2,000. But yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. And it means now I can actually also, I want to say thank you very much to our sponsors. Remember, don't forget, you can enter the competition, which is tweet that and a comment, please, and you will be entered to the competition. You can win iZotope Ozone 6. And that's it for now. But what I can now do is play my gag that I had lined up, because I thought they were going to show kind of, you know, pictures of the flipping Comet, but I'll have to do it like this. So obviously we're going back to the control room, and now I can just play. This is now I can play my gag, and that'll end us out there. Anyone recognise this one? Yes, of course you
Absolutely.
do. First Contact in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And my favourite bit. Blows all the windows out.
And what were the two synths that were shown visually in the movie?
Wasn't it a 2600 one of them?
Yeah.
I believe it was a
DX7, wasn't it?
2500.
Oh, 25.
25 were there.
And there was a Yamaha SY.
Ah, cool.
Or was it an SY?
Right.
I think it was either a 1 or a 2. I'm not sure. It was an SY.
I think it's time to go. I'm going to fade to black, and that'll be the end of that.
Forward semi-quavers.